I am the owner of African Tales by Moji. Subscribe to my channel so you never miss another interesting story.
The Duke's arrival cast a shadow over the palace long before his carriage crossed the main gates. Inside the council chamber, nobody had returned to their former positions. The revelation about the financial records and the possibility of another royal family member being involved had shaken everyone. Prince Ku stood near one of the tall windows, staring into the darkening sky. For the first time in many years, he felt completely powerless. Every answer uncovered another betrayal. Every truth carried another wound. His eyes shifted toward Zara. She looked exhausted. Not physically, emotionally. The woman had endured years of suffering, yet she remained seated with remarkable composure. Their eyes met briefly. The memory of the previous night returned to him. Zara standing in his chamber, begging him not to push her away, reminding him of the promises he once made. Promises he had forgotten. Promises he had broken. He remembered her question. "You never loved me." The words still haunted him. At the time he had answered honestly. He had hidden his royal identity because he never believed in love. He wanted to know if a woman could love a man she believed was blind. A man with no status, no future, no wealth. That experiment had led him to Zara. Yet despite everything, he had never truly opened his heart to her. Instead he had fallen for Alma. The realization filled him with guilt. Because Zara had suffered not only because of Alma's deception. She had suffered because of his blindness. Not physical blindness. Emotional blindness. Across the chamber, Zara quietly watched him. She remembered that painful conversation as well. The night she discovered that she had never been the woman he truly loved. The night he admitted that Alma had been the only person who reached his heart. The memory still hurt. But something had changed. For the first time, Prince Ku was no longer defending Alma. For the first time he was facing the truth. A palace guard suddenly entered. "The Duke has arrived." The chamber immediately grew silent. Moments later the doors opened. The Duke entered. Confident. Commanding. His presence immediately changed the atmosphere. Several advisors rose from their seats. Even senior officials appeared nervous. The Duke acknowledged nobody. His gaze moved across the room until it landed on Queen Mother. "Sister." Queen Mother nodded. "Brother." Then his eyes shifted toward Prince Ku. "My nephew." Prince Ku bowed slightly. The Duke approached the center of the room. His expression remained calm. Come. As if he already knew what was happening. Queen Mother noticed it immediately. "You received information before arriving." The Duke smiled faintly. "News travels quickly." Prince Ku folded his arms. "Not this quickly." The Duke ignored the remark. Instead he looked toward Zara. For a brief second, something flickered across his face. Recognition. Then it disappeared. Zara noticed. So did Queen Mother. The older woman's eyes narrowed. The investigator stepped forward. "Your Grace, we have reason to believe that another member of the royal household benefited from payments connected to Zara's disappearance." The Duke remained perfectly composed. "And you brought me here because the financial trail leads to properties under your authority." The room exploded with whispers. Prince Ku stared at his uncle. The Duke looked unimpressed. "Authority and ownership are not the same thing." The investigator nodded. "Which is why we need answers." The Duke calmly sat down. Then asked. Meanwhile, far away from the palace, in a small village beyond the eastern hills, the injured motorcycle rider struggled to sit upright. Pain shot through his leg. The old bone doctor quickly approached. "You should not move yet." The man sighed heavily. "I need to work. You need to heal." The rider lowered his eyes. For years, tapping palm wine had been his only source of income. Without his leg he had nothing. No future. No family nearby. Nothing. The old doctor studied him carefully. What is your name? Obinna. And why were you riding alone at night? Obinna hesitated. The old doctor immediately noticed. You are hiding something. The young man looked away. For several moments, silence filled the room. Finally he spoke. I was delivering documents. The doctor frowned. What documents? I don't know. Who gave them to you? Obinna hesitated again. Fear appeared in his eyes. The old doctor slowly sat beside him. Young man, whatever trouble follows those papers may already be following you. Obinna swallowed nervously. Because the truth was that he did know something. Not everything, but enough. The night of the accident had not been random. Someone had chased him. Someone had wanted those documents. And now they were gone. Back inside the palace, the investigation continued. The Duke answered every question carefully. Too carefully. Each response sounded polished, controlled, calculated. The investigators presented transaction records, property records, witness statements. The Duke calmly dismissed them one after another, until Queen Mother produced a different document. The moment he saw it, his confidence slipped, only slightly, but everyone noticed. What is that? Prince Ku asked. Queen Mother placed the document on the table. A communication record. The Duke's jaw tightened. The investigator spoke. It places one of your personal advisors in direct contact with individuals connected to Alma. Alma immediately looked down. The chamber became silent. Prince Ku slowly turned toward her. You knew. Alma remained silent. You knew someone else was involved. Still nothing. The Duke finally spoke. Be careful with your assumptions. Prince Ku's patience snapped. For years people suffered. His voice echoed across the chamber. Zara lost everything. He pointed toward Alma. She manipulated us. Then toward Mr. Alloy. He interfered because of fear. Finally toward the Duke. And now your name appears in this. The Duke remained calm. But his eyes had become colder. Control your emotions. No. Prince Ku stepped forward. No more secrets. The chamber fell silent again. Suddenly another investigator rushed inside carrying fresh documents. His breathing was uneven. Your Majesty. Queen Mother looked alarmed. What happened? We found the hidden archive. The room froze. Even the Duke's expression changed. What archive? Queen Mother asked. The investigator placed several aged files onto the table. The documents hidden inside the northern estate. The Duke rose instantly. Those documents are private. The reaction immediately attracted attention. Prince Ku stared at him. Private. Not irrelevant. Not false. Private. The distinction mattered. Queen Mother slowly opened the first file. As she read, shock appeared on her face. Then another file. Then another. The room became silent. Finally she looked up. My God! Nobody spoke. The older woman turned toward Prince Ku. There are records dating back more than 20 years. Prince Ku frowned. What kind of records? Queen Mother's hands trembled slightly. Financial agreements. The investigator added quietly. And inheritance arrangements. The Duke's face darkened. Prince Ku immediately sensed something far bigger was emerging. Something older than Zara. Something older than Alma. Something capable of shaking the kingdom itself. Across the room, Zara watched everything unfold. Yet her attention suddenly shifted toward Alma. The woman appeared terrified. Not nervous. Terrified. As though she already knew what those files contained. Zara slowly stood. Alma! The entire chamber looked toward her. Alma refused to meet her eyes. Look at me. Reluctantly Alma did. Tears filled her eyes. Zara stared at her former friend. For years she had wanted revenge. For years she had imagined this moment. But now she only wanted one thing. The complete truth. You told me your father was sick. Alma remained silent. You told me you needed money. Still nothing. You told me you were my friend. A tear rolled down Alma's cheek. The room listened carefully. Then Zara asked the question that had haunted her for years. When did you stop being my friend? Alma's composure finally shattered. She began crying openly. I don't know. The answer stunned everyone. I don't know when it happened. Her voice trembled. Maybe when I became jealous. She looked toward Zara. Maybe when I saw how much people loved you. Another tear fell. Maybe when I realized I wanted your life. The confession broke something inside the room. 'Cause it sounded honest. Painfully honest. Alma lowered her head. At first, I only wanted opportunities. Her voice cracked. Then I wanted your future. Nobody interrupted. And eventually. She struggled to continue. Eventually I convinced myself that I deserved everything more than you. Silence filled the chamber. Prince Ku slowly closed his eyes. Years of manipulation. Years of lies. Reduced to one terrible truth. Envy. Meanwhile, hundreds of miles away, Obinna lay awake inside the old bone doctor's home. Sleep refused to come. The missing documents haunted him. Then he remembered something. The saddlebag. His eyes widened. The bag had not been attached to the motorcycle when villagers found him. Someone had taken it. Someone now possessed the documents. And if those papers were connected to the same conspiracy unfolding inside the palace, then the danger was far from over. Back at the palace, another servant entered hurriedly and approached Queen Mother. He whispered something into her ear. The older woman's face immediately changed. What is it? Prince Ku asked. Queen Mother slowly rose from her chair. Her eyes moved from the Duke, Toma, Zora, and finally to Mr. Alloy. When she spoke, her voice was barely above a whisper. The missing documents have been found. The chamber erupted. But before anyone could ask another question, Queen Mother continued. And according to the messenger who delivered this information. He paused. The tension became unbearable. The documents contain proof that the person who truly orchestrated everything was never Alma. The room froze. Every face turned toward Alma. Tears streamed down her cheeks. Not because she was innocent, but because she knew exactly whose name the documents were about to reveal. And for the first time since the investigation began, genuine fear appeared even in the Duke's eyes. The chamber remained frozen after Queen Mother revealed that the newly recovered documents pointed beyond Alma. No one spoke. No one seemed capable of speaking. 4 years, every road had led back to Alma. Every witness, every lie, every missing piece of Zara's story had eventually connected to her. Now the investigation was suddenly pointing somewhere else. Prince Ku stared at Queen Mother. What do you mean? The older woman slowly sat back down. Her face looked pale. The messenger delivered only a summary. The documents themselves are still being transported to the palace. The Duke remained standing. His expression had become difficult to read. Prince Ku noticed it immediately. For the first time since arriving, his uncle no longer appeared confident. The investigators exchanged nervous looks. One of them finally spoke. Your Majesty, should we suspend proceedings until the documents arrive? No. Queen Mother shook her head. We continue. Across the room, Zara struggled to process everything. Part of her wanted answers. Another part feared them. For years she had lived with one version of the truth. Then she discovered Alma's betrayal. Then her father's mistakes. Then the hidden payments. Then the royal connection. Every revelation had changed her understanding of the past. How many more layers remained? Beside her, Kizaram looked equally disturbed. This keeps getting worse. Zara nodded slowly. Yes. Meanwhile, Alma remained seated with her head lowered. Tears still lingered in her eyes. The confession she had made moments earlier seemed to have drained the fight from her. Prince Ku turned toward her. There is still something you haven't told us. Alma looked up. What? The beginning. Silence followed. Prince Ku took another step. You said jealousy changed you. Yes. But jealousy alone doesn't explain everything. Nobody interrupted. You didn't simply lie. His voice grew heavier. You didn't simply take money. He looked directly into her eyes. You destroyed lives. The accusations settled over the chamber. Alma swallowed. For several moments she said nothing. Then she laughed softly. A bitter laugh. You want the beginning? Yes. The room listened carefully. Alma lowered her gaze. The beginning started long before I met Zara. Nobody moved. When I was a child. Her voice sounded distant. My father abandoned us. Several people exchanged glances. My mother worked herself sick trying to keep food on the table. Alma continued staring at the floor. Every day I watched wealthy people pass by. She smiled sadly. They lived in a different world. Prince Ku remained silent. They never worried about food. Her breathing became uneven. They never worried about rent. She looked toward Zara. And they never worried about being forgotten. Zara listened quietly. First she felt anger, then pity, then confusion, because she could hear genuine pain beneath Alma's words. I promised myself something. Alma continued. I promised that one day I would never be powerless again. The room remained silent. When I met Zara, she treated me kindly. A tear slid down her cheek. She never looked down on me. Zara lowered her eyes. Then why? Alma laughed again. Because kindness can sometimes make envy worse. The answer stunned everyone. I started comparing our lives. She looked at Zara. You had everything I wanted. Prince Ku folded his arms. So you stole it. Alma closed her eyes. Yes. No excuses. No lies. Just one painful admission. Across the chamber, Queen Mother studied her carefully. For years she had believed Alma was motivated purely by greed. Now she was seeing something different. Greed had certainly played a role. But envy had fueled it. The kind of envy that grows slowly over time until it consumes everything. Before anyone could speak further, another guard entered. He bowed deeply. Your Majesty. What is it? The messenger has arrived. The room immediately became alert. Queen Mother stood. Bring him in. Moments later a dusty rider entered the chamber. His clothes were stained from travel. His face looked exhausted. Yet he carried a wooden chest tightly against his body. Every eye followed him. The rider approached the center of the room and knelt. The documents. Queen Mother stared at the chest. Open it. The rider obeyed. Inside lay dozens of aged files. Letters, contracts, financial records, personal correspondence. The sheer volume of material shocked everyone. The investigators immediately moved closer. Prince Ku felt a knot forming in his stomach. Whatever secret existed had been preserved for years, perhaps decades. Queen Mother carefully removed the first bundle. The seal had long since faded. One investigator examined it. His expression changed. This is old. How old? At least 20 years. The room became silent again. 20 years. That was long before Zara's disappearance. Long before Alma. Long before many of the people involved had entered the story. Queen Mother opened one of the letters. As she read, her eyes widened. Then she opened another. And another. The silence grew heavier. Finally Prince Ku could not wait any longer. Mother. She looked up. What do the documents say? The older woman hesitated. For perhaps the first time in years, she appeared uncertain. Then she spoke. They concern your father. The room froze. Prince Ku stared at her. My father. Queen Mother nodded. The Duke immediately looked away. Prince Ku felt his pulse quicken. His father had died years earlier. He had been remembered as a respected ruler. Fair ruler. A beloved ruler. What about him? Queen Mother slowly lifted another document. It appears he was conducting a private investigation before his death. Confusion spread through the room. An investigation into what? Nobody answered immediately. Then one investigator spoke. The legitimacy of succession. Several advisors gasped. The phrase alone carried enormous implications. Prince Ku frowned. What does that mean? The investigator exchanged a look with Queen Mother. Then he answered. It means your father believed there was a dispute regarding inheritance rights within the royal family. Prince Ku stared at him. The Duke suddenly became very still. Zara noticed. So did Queen Mother. The older woman opened another file. Inside was a collection of handwritten statements, witness testimonies, property records, birth records. The deeper she read, the more troubled she became. Across the room, Alma's fear continued growing, because she recognized some of the names. Names she had seen years ago. Names connected to conversations she was never supposed to overhear. Names connected to the powerful individuals who had secretly funded parts of her operation. Suddenly everything made sense. Payments, the silence, the protection. Someone had been using her. The realization struck hard. For years she believed she controlled the game. Now she was beginning to understand that she may have been nothing more than a pawn. Prince Ku noticed her expression. What is it? Alma looked at him. Her face had gone pale. They used me. The room stared. What are you talking about? Alma swallowed. I thought the money came from people trying to protect themselves. Nobody interrupted. But now. She looked toward the chest. Now I think someone wanted Zara gone for a different reason. Zara's heart skipped. What reason? Alma shook her head. I don't know. For the first time the answer sounded truthful. Meanwhile, far from the palace, Obinna remained awake inside the old bone doctor's home. The storm outside had intensified. Sleep refused to come. His thoughts remained fixed on the missing saddlebag. Eventually he forced himself upright despite the pain. The old bone doctor immediately noticed. You should be resting. I remember something. The older man frowned. What? Obinna's breathing quickened. The man chasing me. The doctor remained silent. He wasn't trying to kill me. What makes you think that? He kept shouting. The memory returned more clearly now. He wanted the bag. The old doctor leaned forward. What bag? Obinna looked toward him. The documents. The older man's expression darkened. What documents? Obinna hesitated. Then he finally revealed the truth. The documents were delivered to me by a palace servant. The room became silent. I was told to take them north. The old doctor stared. North? Yes. The older man's face immediately changed, because everyone knew what existed in the north. The northern estate. The Duke's territory. Back at the palace, investigators continued sorting through the recovered files. Hours passed. Page after page revealed hidden financial arrangements, private meetings, secret agreements. Then one investigator suddenly froze. His eyes widened. What is it? Queen Mother asked. The man looked stunned. He handed over a document. The older woman read it. Then she sat down heavily. Prince Ku felt dread rising inside him. What now? Queen Mother slowly looked toward the Duke. The entire chamber followed her gaze. The Duke remained motionless. His face revealed nothing. Yet something had changed. Something fundamental. The older woman lifted the document. This agreement was signed 21 years ago. Nobody moved. It concerned succession rights. The Duke finally spoke. His voice sounded colder than before. That document should not exist. The statement shocked everyone. Prince Ku stared at him. Not because of what he said, but because of how he said it. Not denial. Not confusion. Recognition. The Duke knew exactly what the document was. Queen Mother rose slowly. And yet it does. The tension became unbearable. Outside, darkness continued spreading across the kingdom. Inside the chamber, every secret seemed connected to another. Every answer uncovered a deeper mystery. Zara sat quietly, watching the pieces move. For years she believed her story was about betrayal. Now she was beginning to realize it might be connected to something much larger. Something buried long before she entered the palace. Something powerful enough to involve nobles, hidden payments, secret investigations, and members of the royal family. Prince Ku slowly turned toward his uncle. For the first time in his life, he looked at the Duke not as family, but as a suspect. And somewhere within the growing mountain of evidence, investigators were moving closer to a truth that had remained hidden for more than 2 decades. A truth capable of changing the future of the kingdom, the fate of the crown, and the lives of everyone gathered inside the chamber. Prince Ku remained standing long after Queen Mother revealed the existence of the succession agreement. The chamber had become so quiet that every person present could hear the distant rustling of papers as investigators continued sorting through the recovered files. Nobody knew what would happen next. Nobody knew how deep the conspiracy truly extended. The Duke sat motionless. His expression remained calm, but the confidence that had accompanied him into the palace was slowly disappearing. Queen Mother carefully placed the document on the table. 21 years ago, she repeated. The investigator beside her nodded. Yes, Your Majesty. Prince Ku looked from the document to his uncle. You knew about it. The Duke did not immediately answer. The delay was enough. Everyone noticed. Finally he spoke. I knew many documents existed. That is not an answer. Prince Ku's voice was firm. The Duke met his gaze. Because your question assumes guilt. No. Prince Ku shook his head. It assumes knowledge. The distinction mattered. Several advisors exchanged glances. The Duke remained silent. Queen Mother slowly sat back in her chair. For decades she had known her brother. She knew when he was telling the truth. She also knew when he was hiding something. And at that moment he was hiding something. The investigators continued examining the recovered records. Then one of them suddenly stopped. His eyes widened. Your Majesty. Queen Mother looked up. What is it now? The investigator carefully held up a faded letter. This appears to be written by the late king. The room froze. Prince Ku immediately stepped closer. My father. Yes. The investigator handed over the document. Queen Mother accepted it. The handwriting was unmistakable. The seal was genuine. The signature matched countless royal records. The letter was authentic. Slowly, she began reading aloud. My beloved wife, if you are reading this, then it means I have either failed or I am no longer able to continue this investigation. The room became silent. Prince Ku felt his stomach tighten. Queen Mother continued. For many years I have uncovered evidence suggesting that powerful individuals within our own family have manipulated inheritance records for personal gain. Several people inhaled sharply. The Duke lowered his eyes. The letter continued. I do not yet know the full truth. However, I have reason to believe that the future stability of the kingdom may depend upon exposing those responsible. Queen Mother's voice grew quieter. I have hidden evidence in several locations. If anything happens to me, the investigation must continue. The letter ended there. Nobody spoke. Nobody knew what to say. Prince Ku stared at the page. His father had suspected something. Not recently. Not years after his reign. Decades ago. The implications were staggering. Across the chamber, Zara felt an uneasy sensation growing inside her. Every new revelation seemed further removed from her original tragedy. And yet somehow everything remained connected. She could feel it. The question was how. The investigator suddenly approached another stack of documents. He carefully opened a file marked with an old royal seal. His expression immediately changed. What did you find? Queen Mother asked. The investigator hesitated. Then he answered. There is a name. Prince Ku frowned. What name? The investigator looked uncomfortable. as though he wished someone else would read it instead. Finally he spoke. The file references a child. Confusion spread across the room. A child? Yes. The investigator swallowed. A child whose existence was concealed from official records. The room erupted into whispers. Even Queen Mother appeared shocked. Prince Ku folded his arms. What child? The investigator slowly looked down at the file again, then back up. A potential heir. The silence that followed felt almost unbearable. Prince Ku stared at him. A potential heir to the throne. The investigator nodded. Nobody moved. Nobody breathed. The Duke's face hardened. And that alone told everyone that this revelation mattered. Queen Mother slowly stood. Continue. The investigator turned another page. The child was reportedly born shortly before the succession dispute began. Prince Ku's mind raced. His father had investigated inheritance. A hidden heir existed. The Duke appeared nervous. The pieces were beginning to align. Yet the picture remained incomplete. Across the room, Alma suddenly looked frightened again. More frightened than before. 'Cause she remembered something. Conversation. Years ago. One she had dismissed at the time. A conversation between two men discussing bloodlines. Inheritance.